Hello everyone. So we'll start with another new chapter, that is respiration in plants. Oh, what is respiration in plants? Now the word was coined by Dutroquet. The term respiration is derived from a Latin word respirate, which means to breathe. So plants breathe. Exactly, yes. How come? What is the procedure involved? What are the structures involved in respiration? So let us know about it in detail. All cells require energy. The capacity to cause physical and chemical changes in the cells, these energy requiring changes can be biosynthesis, movement, uptake of materials, and development. Now, in photosynthesis, we have seen how the phototropes, that is, the light energy is obtained by the plants and used to reduce the lower energy in organic molecules like carbon dioxide through photosynthesis. They convert this trapped light energy into chemical energy stored in the bonds of sucrose, glucose, or starch. The organisms that cannot harvest solar energy, that is, chemotrophs, obtain their energy by oxidizing the high energy molecules synthesized by phototropes. So, is it only a gaseous exchange or do the plants respire? So, we'll differentiate now in between this. What is this gaseous exchange and respiration? The former, that is respiration, involves biological oxidation of organic molecules along with the release of energy, whereas gaseous exchange involves the intake of oxygen and release of carbon dioxide. So you can see here how the plants during daytime produce. Hey, Padshira, produce. Produce oxygen, which is more than 10 times the carbon dioxide produced at night. So in chemical terms, if we define uh, respiration, it's a metabolic process where the free energy released by the oxidation of organic molecules is used to manufacture ATP. Now, it's a catabolic exoenergy process, but more precisely, we call it as amphibolic process. So in detail, we'll study what is amphibolic process in the later section. It's a metabolic process where the free energy released by the oxidation of organic molecules is used to manufacture ATP. So substrates used for oxidation is known as respiratory substrate. So here carbohydrates is most used. Fat, organic acid and proteins are also involved. The cellular respiration is defined as the flow of electrons via membrane from the reduced coenzyme to electron acceptor, that is accompanied by ATP production. Now, energy is not released in a single step in respiration to avoid conservation of complete energy into heat. Nor it is directly used for cellular activities. Instead, the energy is liberated in a controlled fashion in several steps and is mostly stored in high energy bonds of ATP. The stepwise release of chemical bond energy enables the cell to utilize a relatively higher proportion of released energy in ATP synthesis. It minimizes the wastage of energy. So cellular respiration is similar to combustion, that is burning of coal or wood, oil, etc. in terms of complex organic substance breakdown, oxygen utilization, carbon dioxide production, and release of energy. But there are some fundamental differences between the two processes. So what is this difference? And respiration, biochemical process, and it occurs inside living cell, whereas combustion is a physiochemical and non-cellular process. Respiration occurs under control, biological control, whereas this is an uncontrolled process. Energy is released in stages as chemical bonds are broken and steps, whereas here energy is released in a single step as the most of chemical bonds break simultaneously. Respiration only in a part of energy is lost as heat, whereas most of the energy is liberated as heat. Except in few cases, light is not emitted during respiration. Light is often emitted during combustion. Temperature is not allowed to rise. Temperature becomes very high. Most of the energy is trapped in ATP molecules. No ATP formed during combustion. Each step is catalyzed by an enzyme, whereas enzymes are not involved in combustion. Each step is catalyzed by an enzyme, enzymes not involved in combustion. A number of intermediate are formed for the synthesis of different organic compounds. No intermediate are produced in combustion. But still, gaseous exchange takes place in plant. How is it? That plants uptake oxygen and release carbon dioxide during cellular respiration. Plants lack any specialized organ for gaseous exchange, as each plant participate in gaseous exchange also. They do not have great demands for gaseous exchange. Oxygen is available within the cell and there is low distance for diffusion. Plants have some specialized structures like stomata in leaves and lenticels in stems to assist gaseous exchange. Parts of plant involved in respiration are root, leaves, stem, etc. Plants breathe via cellular respiration. The complete combustion of glucose produces and the products like carbon dioxide and water and yields energy as heat. So you can see how carbohydrate with the help of oxygen breakdowns into 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water plus energy. Now, what are the organic substances used for oxidation? They are called as respiratory substrate. The most used respiratory substrate is carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is readily oxidized for energy production, while proteins and fats can be used. They require more complex metabolic pathway and are not as efficient as carbohydrate. So they are seldom used as respiratory substrate. Proteins are rarely used in respiration. In other organs, proteins are employed as respiratory substrate only the situation when carbohydrate and fat reserves have been used up during long fasting. The fat and proteins are not such used in respiration. Instead, they are initially broken down into intermediate identical to those in sugar oxidation. The intermediate metabolites from all three sources are finally oxidized through a common oxidative pathway called Krebs tricarboxylic acid cycle, TCA cycle. Now, types of respiration. The type of respiratory substrate divides respiration into two types, that is floating respiration and protoplasmic respiration. Floating involves floating inclusions like fat or carbohydrate as respiratory substrate, whereas protoplasmic respiration involves protein as respiratory uh, substrate. Now, the presence or absence of oxygen during oxidization divides respiration into two types, aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So, we'll study in detail what is aerobic respiration and what is anaerobic respiration. Now the types you can see here, the diagrammatic representation, how the type of respiratory substrate and presence of oxygen, segregate them into 4 different types. So aerobic respiration involves complete oxidation of organic food molecules with the help of oxygen as a terminal oxidation into carbon dioxide and water. It takes place in mitochondria. Uh, and necessitates oxygen. So it is an oxygen dependent respiration. The final acceptor of the electron is molecular oxygen. So energy here is liberated during aerobic respiration. You can call it as 686 kilocalories or 2870 kilojoules per molecule of glucose. Anaerobic respiration involves incomplete or partial oxidation of organic food molecules without oxygen being used as an oxidant. So, what is the difference between aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration or fermentation, also called as fermentation? It's a normal mode of respiration in plants and animals, whereas it's normal mode of respiration in some parasitic worms, microorganism, other resorted to it temporarily. It uses oxygen for breakdown of respiratory substrate, whereas it does not use oxygen for breakdown the respiratory substrate. Here it is completely oxidized. Here in anaerobic, it's incomplete oxidation for respiratory substrate. Involve exchange of gases between organism and environment. The exchange of gases is absent. It yields inorganic end products, carbon dioxide and water. Here, at least one of the end products is organic. Inorganic substrate may or may not be produced. It consists of 3 steps: glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and terminal oxidation, whereas fermentation or anaerobic consists 2 steps: glycolysis and incomplete breakdown of pyruvate. The final products released in aerobic respiration is it releases carbon dioxide and water. It may not or may release carbon dioxide. Water is usually not formed. It occurs in cytoplasm and mitochondria. The anaerobic occurs in cytoplasm only. Aerobic involves electron transport system, whereas electron transport is absent in anaerobic respiration. So it takes place in cytoplasm. Absence of oxygen releases small amount of energy. The common products are, as a result of anaerobic respiration are carbon dioxide and ethanol or lactic acid. So we'll see in the future section how the chemical reaction takes place. Compounds such as sulfase, fumarate, and nitrate act as terminal electron acceptor. So this is just a brief cycle to show how the glycolysis and anaerobic formation of pyruvate is taking place in anaerobic respiration. Now, the mitochondria and the reaction about the mitochondria were the site of all metabolic respiratory reaction takes place in eukaryotes. It's a double membrane structure where the outer membrane is freely permeable to ions and the small molecules due to the presence of transmembrane channel proteins known as porins. The inner membrane bears specific carriers for the inward transport of pyruvate and fatty acids, and it is selectively permeable. So this we have studied in our previous classes, that is in plant water relations, the permeability or diffusion, osmosis procedure, how exactly it happens through semi-permeable membrane or selectively permeable membranes. The mitochondria consists of many enfoldings called cristae that accommodate respiratory complexes and helps in increasing the surface area. The spaces created due to unfoldings of cristae provide a region where protons are pumped during electron transport. This is the ultimate site for the synthesis of ATP, and thus it is called as powerhouse of cell. So here you can see how ATP proudly says that it's the energy currency of the cell, and its continuous consumption and regeneration is thrill, and without ATP all biochemical reactions functions comes to stand still. So existence of life is unimaginable without ATP. So that importance of ATP can be seen in mitochondria. Now, the ultimate aim of respiratory breakdown, the term adenosine triphosphate, was coined by Carl Lohmann and Fritz Lippmann, called as father of ATP cycle, for discovering the synthesis and breakdown of ATP. It is also called energy currency of the cells, and it consists of adenine uh, and biphosphate moiety, ribose, and energy is trapped in ATP because it produces required amount of energy. About 8.15 kilocalories of energy is released for hydrolysis of a molecule of ATP. It can store small packets of energy as soon as the energy becomes available and minimize the wastage of energy. So formation of ATP linked with oxidation of NAD and FAD and ETS is called oxidative phosphorylation, while ATP formation directly by uh, the oxidation of substrate without ETS is called substrate level phosphorylation. So we'll stop here and we'll take up the mechanism of respiration in the next class. Kindly understand the mitochondrial structure so that the process or mechanism of respiration, glycolysis, pyruvate oxidation, ECA cycle, how the electron transport, everything happens in respiration. You'll come to know only when you know the structure of mitochondria. So kindly go through the mitochondrial structure so that the mechanism of respiration explained will be easy to understand. So thank you so much. We'll stop here. Bye bye.